Story 1. I have an Instagram account with 100 followers. I had it set to public, so anybody could come onto my page and look at my pictures, like them, and comment on them. Oftentimes, I'd get people I didn't know liking my pictures and commenting on them. But one person stood out from the rest. I remember his first comment on one of my photos. It was a beach picture with one of my friends, so I was wearing a swimsuit. I have like 11 comments on it, but one of them was from somebody I didn't know. It was 3 flame emojis. I clicked the man's profile. He had 3 pictures, 80 followers, and he was following over 200 people, including me. All 3 of his pictures were of him selfies, which didn't look right, given that he looked like he was 40 or 50. I didn't mind though. It's expected to happen to a certain extent. However, after that photo, it started becoming a thing where the man would just comment on every new photo I posted. One comment just said, "hot." This one was a little creepier, honestly. But then, 2 days later, after posting my next picture, the man didn't comment this time. Instead, he sent me a direct message. It said, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you're beautiful, even though I'm like 30 years older than you, lol." I responded, "Lol, thanks," which I'm surprised I did. Most people would have probably ignored it. He got back to me with, "I would kill to meet a girl like you." I replied 10 minutes later with, "Thanks," hoping he wouldn't say anything else. But he got back to me with, "Maybe one day I'll meet you, dead lol." I didn't reply to that one. I found everything about the guy creepy, but I didn't block him. I figured, why get rid of a free follow and likes? I hadn't heard from him until I posted a new photo. This one of my sister Carol and me in front of our house. The man commented quickly on the photo saying, "You and your sister are so cute." Now it was becoming too much for me, so I removed the comment and blocked him. Later in the day, Carol and I were home alone. I was in the bathroom doing my nails, getting ready to go out. I noticed a car I didn't recognize pull up in front of the house through the window, but only the front. The rest of the car was covered by the bush that separates our front yard from the neighbors. The headlights shut off, but I didn't see anyone step out of the car. I took note of this only because we're on a dead-end block, so we don't get any through traffic. I shut the blind just because I was on full display. My sister was in her room on her laptop. When the time came for me to leave, I didn't bother saying goodbye. Usually, we just text each other that we're going out anyway. I went to my car, looking at the mysterious car, which revealed to be a Maxima. The tinted windows mixed with the darkness of the night made it impossible to see inside of it. I got in my car, did a 3-point turn, and drove down the one-sided street to the nearest main road. I went to a social gathering at a friend's house. I wouldn't call it a party, but a decent amount of drinking went on. I cut myself off a little early since I knew I had to drive, but still, I'll admit, and I don't condone this kind of behavior whatsoever, I was pretty tipsy when I was driving home. It was only a 5-minute drive though. I pulled up to my house, and the first thing I noticed was the Maxima still parked out front. I needed to know whose car that was. I passed it slowly, but still couldn't see inside of it. I parked and texted a few friends that I got home safe before stepping outside and walking up to my house. I was eyeing that car parked out front all the way up to the front door, where I dropped my keys, at which point, for whatever reason, I was too scared to bend over and look for them. Instead, I rang the doorbell like 5 times so my sister would answer quickly. She never answered the door though, so I was forced to get on my knees and look for the keys. They actually landed right on the doormat. I opened the door and went inside pretty swiftly, taking one last look at the Maxima before shutting the door. It was past midnight, but my sister was usually still up this late, so I dizzily but quietly walked up the stairs and down the hall towards her door. And oddly enough, her door was wide open, but the lights were out. Maybe she went out for once. I crept into the room, and my heart skipped a beat as my mind tried to put together the faint noise I was hearing. It took me a while to realize it was a whisper. The closer I got to the bed, the more clear it became that it was my sister whispering. I stood over her and leaned in a little closer to hear what she was saying. And then I finally understood. She was saying, "There's someone in the closet." I turned to the closet door, and it was open just a crack. I ran out of the room and out of the house to my car and called the cops. They arrived in just a few minutes. 4 cops searched the entire house. They found the man in the basement. He had a large knife in his back pocket and was hiding behind the furnace. He matched the description of the man I blocked on Instagram. The man admitted to stalking me for a while. He followed my sister and me for a few days, getting our address through whatever means. He said he liked the picture of my sister and me and wanted to meet us. Before he could, he was caught. The judge was lenient, given that he didn't actually do any harm, but I still have nightmares about him breaking into our house again. Story 2. I'm 27 years old, living alone in a rural town in Nebraska. Instagram is one of my biggest hobbies. I love posting photography of my outdoor adventures. I have over 2,000 followers, most of whom I don't even know personally. One day, I received a direct message request from someone I didn't know. The profile picture was just a black screen, no posts, no followers, but it was following over 300 people, including me. I hesitated for a moment, but then accepted the message request out of curiosity. The message read, "You're a great photographer. I love your work." I replied with a simple, "Thank you," thinking it was just another random follower appreciating my photos. The next message, however, was a bit unsettling. It said, "I see you like to explore alone. Isn't that dangerous?" I didn't reply, and the person kept messaging, saying things like, "What if something happened to you out there? Would anyone even know?" I decided to block the account and thought nothing more of it. A few days later, I went on one of my usual hiking trips, exploring a trail I hadn't been to before. It was deep in the woods, far from any town or road. As I was taking photos of the landscape, I noticed something out of place in one of the shots. A figure, partially obscured by trees, was standing in the distance. My heart raced as I zoomed in on the photo. It was a person, dressed in all black, watching me from afar. I quickly packed up my things and started heading back to my car, trying to stay calm. The entire time, I felt like I was being followed, though I never saw anyone. When I got to my car, I locked the doors and drove straight home. That night, I received another message on Instagram from a different account, but with the same black profile picture. It said, "You looked scared today. Did you see something?" I blocked the account immediately, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next day, I went to the police and reported the incident. They said they would look into it, but there wasn't much they could do without more information. I started being more cautious about where I went and what I posted on Instagram. A few weeks later, I noticed a car following me as I drove home from work. It was an old, beat-up sedan, always keeping a few cars behind me. When I turned into my driveway, the car slowly drove past, but I couldn't see the driver through the tinted windows. I never felt safe after that. I installed security cameras around my house and stopped going on my solo hiking trips. To this day, I don't know who was behind those Instagram accounts, but I know they were watching me, and I fear they still are. Story 3. I'm sure most of you use Instagram these days, whether you have a big following or none at all. It's just something most of society uses. Apparently, the app has over 1 billion active users, which I find insane. I had about 300 followers at the time this happened. I live in a rural town, so I guess that's a lot for people around us. We don't know a lot of people outside of our districts. One night, while watching a movie, my phone vibrated. It said a girl named Holly started following me on Instagram, so I opened up Instagram to check out her profile. She was this really gorgeous blonde girl with like 5,000 followers. She had about 50 pictures, all spaced out realistically as far as the dates they were posted. Usually, when I got followers like this, I'll check to make sure they're actually legit. She got like 600 likes per picture and a bunch of comments from guys I assume she didn't even know, leaving hearts and drooling emojis and whatever. Then, I kid you not, as I was going through her page before I even followed her back, she DM'd me. She said, "Hey, I honestly don't do this a lot, but I thought you're really cute." To be honest, and not to sound like a douche, I am pretty fit, and I've been told I'm pretty attractive. I have had some girls DM me in the past, so I followed her back and DM'd her the same, saying, "I think you're cute too." Then we went on to have a pretty long conversation, and it was going really well. We talked about fitness and what high schools we went to, and honestly, it was great. She gave me her number, and we quickly got to setting up a meetup for the next night, which was a Friday night. We agreed we'd meet at a popular bar called Lucky's for a couple of drinks. So, Friday night, as the nerves were starting to kick in, I prepared myself for this little date. Never had I gone on a date straight from an Instagram DM, but this girl was downright gorgeous. I drove down to Lucky's and sat in my car in the parking lot, awaiting her call or text to let me know she was there. Eventually, she did text me, but not to let me know she was there. She said her car broke down and she needed a ride. I had to reread it a couple of times to be sure I was reading it correctly. I tried calling her, but she didn't accept the call. She texted me, describing her location. I didn't answer just yet. I took one more good look at her Instagram profile, and it was definitely real. She had friends tagged in her pictures, commenting on her pictures, so I knew I wasn't getting catfished. I texted back, "On my way," and off I went. I drove down the quiet side roads towards the location she described. I made it, but it was a weird spot for her car to have broken down. I saw a car pulled off to the side of the road next to the woods. Actually, there were woods on either side of this road. The car had its hood open, so it had to be her. I tried calling, but it didn't go through. I looked at my phone and realized I had no bars here. I parked my car on the other side of the road and got out. As I walked over to her car, which was a black Nissan Altima, I realized I couldn't see inside of it at all. The windows were completely tinted black. I lightly tapped on the window and waited. No one opened the door, so I walked around to the front hood just to see if she had attempted to do any work on the engine. As far as I could tell, she didn't. I was losing patience. I texted her, "Where are you? I'm about to leave." As I walked back to the side of the car, I noticed the driver's side window had now been cracked down. I knew for a fact they were all shut a minute ago. I called Holly's name, knowing someone had to be in the car now. I walked a little closer to get a look inside. Someone's fist reached out from the window, and they started signaling for me to come closer with their pointer finger. I felt my stomach drop, realizing it was definitely a man's hand. I told him in a shaky voice, "Get lost," as I ran back to my car. I sped away and made the first right turn off the street I could because of my constant glances in the rearview mirror. I eventually spotted a car with its lights off trailing behind me. I thought to do the same. I turned off the lights on my car and started making as many turns as possible, and eventually I did lose the car. When I got home, the profile had already blocked me. But I found out at a later date that that profile was, in fact, real, but that the girl in the pictures was hacked by some creepy dude. I wasn't even this guy's only victim, whatever plan he had. I just hope everyone else was as fortunate as me.